Hi, I'm Representative Alana Rubel, the House Minority Leader here at the Idaho Statehouse, bringing you this week's Idaho Minority Report on what's happening in your government. It's been a rough week. The big ticket item was that the House killed House Bill 226, which would have brought in a $6 million federal grant to develop early childhood education options in communities around Idaho. Would not have cost the state anything. This was all federal money that would have been coming into the state, and the House GOP turned it down. This is really concerning. We really needed this money and these programs to help these kids meet their literacy targets and meet their school readiness targets. So we're going to try again and see if there's some other way we can still accept this money, but this was a huge setback. Then the very next day, they killed Senate Bill 1081, which was funding for the catastrophic health care plan, also a really critical program that covers emergency health care for the uninsured and reimburses counties who otherwise get stuck with those costs. This was also a big problem, and probably we're going to have to bring that bill back again because I don't think we can leave without funding those needs. It's critical. Not quite sure why they thought it was a good idea to kill that bill, but that's where we are. Also today, they passed House Bill 249, which would make sex education on an opt-in basis instead of what it currently is on an opt-out basis. This would substantially, we think, diminish the number of kids who end up getting sex ed, just because, every time you add an administrative hurdle, it just makes that many people more drop off. Even if they want sex ed, they just don't get around to submitting the form so that their kid can get it. Concerned about this as well. Sex ed is really important for a lot of reasons, and we're concerned this will lead to more unintended pregnancies. Also making its way through the House and on the reading calendar right now is 294, which is the vouchers bill. This would allocate about $35 million in funding for private education for private providers. Now, on your taxpayer dollars, we take it pretty seriously. When your taxpayer dollars are being allocated to something, we think it's important there be accountability. Right now, in the public school system, there's a lot of accountability. The teachers have to be certified. There are a lot of rules on what needs to be in the curriculum. Kids need to learn geometry and algebra and English and American government and history and all these items. We're really concerned about allocating tens of millions of dollars where there's no accountability, where these teachers, we don't know if they have any training at all. There's no requirements for their curriculum whatsoever. They can spend all their day just, wandering through downtown and call it a private school, and they'd be eligible for taxpayer dollars. So we're concerned on that one. Also in the education arena, they just passed House Bill 221, which would eliminate certification requirements at the state level. This is also a concern. Teaching is a serious profession that requires serious training, and getting rid of that and just allowing people who have not met these credential levels teach is concerning, and we think it's not the way to address our teaching shortage. We need to increase pay, not drop standards. But we are trying to get some good things done in the education arena. We're really pushing to get a hearing on full-day kindergarten, which would be a triumph if we could get that to happen this year. So stay tuned and pipe up when that comes. We'll see you next week.
Good afternoon, we're back again. We are at the end of the 8th week of the legislative session, and I wanted to bring you some information that will impact all of us that came through the Senate. We had two bills that were to restrict our ability as voters to do an initiative process. And I think before we mentioned a bill that was requiring that all 35 legislative districts have to gather 6% of the signatures in order for a initiative to go on the ballot. And fortunately, that means that if 34 districts, let's say the majority of us decide that an idea is good, an initiative, one district can hold the rest of them hostage and be a veto power to prohibit that initiative idea to go to the ballot. So we don't believe that that is good for us to be able to have our voice. Along with voting, the initiative referendum process is the one way for the public to tell people like us in the legislature when we should be doing something that we are not hearing from you. The second one just came through our Senate State Affairs and got passed off of the floor of the Senate today, and that's Senate Bill 1150. It also restricts the ability to signature gather. It requires that you collect all your signatures on Idaho soil. So let's say you have a cannabis bill, for instance, or a hemp bill, and you go over into Oregon or Washington and you try to collect signatures in the parking lot of where those products are legally being sold, you could not use those signatures to be counted under the initiative signature gathering process. My objection to it is, what about our servicemen and women? If we have a military initiative that impacts them, they have tours of duty and they are not standing on Idaho soil, and therefore they would not be able to have a say in the initiative process. Or businesses have contracts that are abroad or someplace else in the country. They don't necessarily come back and stand on soil to sign an initiative petition, and therefore they would be unable to participate. Students who work abroad. So you can see that there are many people that by passing something like this would not be able to participate, and I would argue it's a voter suppression bill so that you, the voter, if you don't happen to be standing in Idaho, but you are still an Idaho citizen and a registered voter, would not be able to be part of that initiative process. A couple of good things came before the Senate this week. One was Senator Melissa Wintrow was able to get a bill passed that addresses spousal rape. So far in Idaho statute, unbelievably, if you were married and your spouse did rape you, you had no recourse to defend yourself as it being rape. This law passed unanimously off of the Senate floor to take care of, if there is in fact rape, a spousal rape, that you would have the ability to have the law protect you. The other is our Senator Ali Rabi brought forward a bill that gives more transparency to tenants. Right now there's nothing in the law that protects tenants if a landlord decides after a contract has been signed to raise certain fees or extra expenses that were not defined in contract. They had a legal right to do that, and that is putting people into evictions. It is not transparent in the contract. This was a way for making sure that whatever that is, that it is clearly defined in any kind of lease agreement or contract that you would have with your between the landlord and the tenant. So we are likely to be in session for quite a while. We've only sent 15 bills to the governor that he has signed. If you remember last year, we had finished all of our appropriations and all of our business by the third week of March. And after 8 weeks of being here, we have barely started. So there's a lot of mischief going on in the building. And unfortunately, that will put us here much longer than usual. And we still have a lot to debate on appropriations, which is our budget. That is what we are constitutionally required to do during a regular session, and we have not succeeded yet, so there's more to come. Have a wonderful weekend.
Hi, I'm Senator David Nelson. I represent Legislative District 5 in the Idaho Senate. Legislative District 5 is Latah and Benawah County. And I'm a product of higher education. I got a degree in engineering, and I worked with some amazing faculty at the University of Idaho who had invented new technology for the pulp and paper industry. And I worked in that field for the rest of my professional career, starting up a software company, bringing jobs back to Idaho. And I'm really distressed at the battles on higher education in the Idaho legislature this year. Higher education is an unmitigated good for Idaho. It educates our citizens, it brings in good jobs and economic development. It's the backbone, really, for our agricultural needs in the state. Agriculture is a high-tech industry. And this year, when we're trying to punish Boise State for their diversity work, diversity is important in Idaho. We need to bring in more cultures. We don't indoctrinate kids when they're at higher education. So we shouldn't be punishing higher ed for that. In fact, I'm so distressed that we're not increasing the budgets there. It's been a place in the Idaho budget where we have let it stagnate since before the Great Recession. So this year I'll support higher ed wherever I can. I will not vote to split the budgets of the 4 universities up. I will not vote to cut budgets at higher ed, and I will work to increase the budget wherever we can.